atmospheres are so important. Why you have the gift of discernment is to discern atmospheres. When you step into any place, be it an office, wherever you are, the first thing you ought to do is to discern atmospheres. And he suffered no man to follow him, said Peter. I'm James and John, and brother of James. And let's go. He says, and he comes to the house of the ruler of the synagogue and seeketh the tumult, and then that wept and wailed greatly. And when he was come in, he said unto them, why ye this ardor and weep? The damsel is not dead, but sleepeth. What was that all about? That statement was not for the hearing of the people. That statement was the key, the fire, the power that would have to deprogram the atmosphere that Jesus had already stepped into. So Jesus was dealing with a strong atmosphere that has the capacity to resist the flow of the supernatural. So when Jesus came in, the first thing he did was to discern the atmosphere. So he made a statement, for this death, this child is not dead. He is asleep. Okay, you may say, okay, that's not true. How can you prove it? The Bible says in the month or two or three witnesses, a doctrine is established or truth is established. Now, when it came to the case of Lazarus, when he heard that Lazarus was dead, was sick, actually he said this sickness is not unto death, but Lazarus died. When he came, he said, Lazarus is asleep. He told Peter and his disciples that Lazarus is asleep. And Peter said, Lord, if he sleepeth, why do we go to wake him up? Then he now used the human language, because already the first word has established the reality. The first word. Now, anytime you hear anything negative, say the first word is what stands. Please, because we want to make mistakes, say things, and then come in need of a miracle. But if we get it right from the Genesis, then we will determine the end. If you get it right in Genesis, you have a blissful revelation. The first atmosphere that God met in Genesis chapter 1 verse 2 was an atmosphere covered by gross darkness. The earth was without form, void. Darkness was upon the face of the deep. And then the Spirit of the Lord began to move on the face of the waters. Atmosphere. And God said, let there be light. God said. He began to change atmospheres. Atmospheres. Now, our atmosphere is still clouded. You think that the atmosphere is normal. I show you a mystery. When you enter Langa, you enter your office places, you enter a certain community, there is an atmosphere there. Let me tell you something. If I take off this light now, if I ask them now, son, off the light, this is where we are sitting. Surprise? Nobody told you that this is actually the atmosphere. In the natural, use this to capture the real atmosphere in the realms. Now, let us get rid of this atmosphere so that we can see clearly. Let there be light. It's cleared. But that does not mean that the light, that the darkness is no more. It's just that a light has been positioned, and as long as that light is constant, darkness will not manifest itself. But once the source of light is disconnected, you'll be amazed that you were surrounded by darkness, waiting to invade, waiting to devour you overnight. Wake up. Oh, Gahisha. What is it that Jesus threatened the church of Ephesus? If they do not return to their first love, he says, I will remove your candlestick from its stand. What is the candlestick? The source of light. And once the candlestick is removed, what's going to happen to that church? Darkness. The reason why darkness has not invaded that church in Ephesus is because their candlestick was still captured in the realms of God. So there are things we can do to extinguish the fire. There are things we can do to keep the fire flowing. Are you hearing me? Now, in the atmosphere, let me tell you, God told me this. He said that when we enter atmospheres, you have darkness in the atmosphere. You have different kinds of light. Not every light is of God, because Satan has transformed himself into an angel of light. Now, you have different doubts. You have wickedness. You have spirits. You have air. You have polluted air. You have different kinds of wind and atmosphere in the atmosphere. Different mixtures. And these are clouds. These are frequencies. These are dimensions. They interface. And there is the atmosphere of the spirit. That's the atmosphere of the spirit. So by the time we start praying, we ought to learn how to break through atmospheres, destabilize, deplete the contrary atmospheres that hinder our ascension into the realms of God. This is not a warfare with flesh and blood. It's not a warfare with the president of this country. Whatever country that you think is not working, it is because of the atmosphere. There are forces that have programmed the nation in the atmosphere. Every nation has a prince. The prince of Persia withheld a prayer, hindered a certain flow of God's light and glory in the atmosphere. Atmospheres must be reclaimed. Atmospheres must be reclaimed. Why are men dying of cancers? Why are men dying of accidents, disease, and old age process? The atmosphere must be reclaimed. How? By us entering into the diversities of tongues. Diversities of tongues. Diversities of tongues. Diversities of tongues.